101 Marketing, and I have with me Jason Gorman of Hoek Wineries. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you, Peter.
And now, what is your position at Hoek?
I'm CEO.
Oh, okay. I'm talking to the head of the food chain. There you go. Now, the reason why you're on the 101 Marketing show is that you literally preach and are out doing what I believe the modern marketing geniuses ought to be doing, which is using the power of the internet. You're also using video and viral marketing, and gosh, it's exciting to see somebody actually walking this talk. And I want to angle around here ever so slightly. One of the things that really excited me was I was doing research for a new wine show that I intend to start off here in California. And one of my associates and I were talking that it's really not about the geekiness of wine or the snobbiness of wine, so to speak. And I mean, there's lots of shows and lots of people, and they're not the ones that we need to entice into drinking more wine. Wine has to be connected with something different. And what you came out with, which I'm seeing all over the place, is wine is connected to fun. And people buy for emotion backed up by logic is something I live with all the time, telling my clients, that. And here you come out of nowhere, and presto bango, you're talking the same stuff. So
Sure.
Talk to me a little bit about how you decided to use a blogger and then get connected in with geeks. Can you tell me that story?
Well, we chose blogging really because the routes for communicating about wine are very restricted generally. Mm-hmm. If you've got a little winery up in somewhere remote-ish in California, say Mendocino County, or you've got
Temecula.
a little wine. Sorry,
yeah. or Temecula for that matter.
Or Temecula, or you've got a little winery in the middle of the Languedoc in France, or in Chile or Argentina, or in our case, in the middle of nowhere in South Africa. The question you have to ask yourself is how are you going to communicate with your customers? Mm-hmm. How can you physically and actually execute on starting a conversation with people? Mm-hmm. And the way the market is really organized now is there's very few ways you can actually do that. You can go to the wine publications, so Wine Spectator, Wine Enthusiast, Advocate. There's a short list of them, right? Mm-hmm. Tanzer, and you can submit your wines, and if they like them, and you get lucky, then you might get a good write-up. And if you get a good write-up, maybe you can sell some wine. Mm-hmm. But they won't actually write it up until you have distribution. So you have a sort of chicken and egg problem.
Yeah, that's
but
difficult.
Over the last 20 years, that has become the primary means of wineries communicating with the marketplace. And I would say wineries, I'm excluding the Gallows of the world and the really big brands. The other way that you can communicate with your marketplace is through doing consumer sort of tastings and dinners and what have you. But those things are very expensive and very inefficient. Mm-hmm. You got to go pay to have the privilege of bringing your wines along. You got to deal with people one-on-one, very time-intensive, very hard way to build a brand, mm-hmm. very, very difficult to communicate on a large scale that way. Mm-hmm. It's impossible, actually. And you can do dinners as well and all that, but you have to have a presence before people will want to do dinners with you. So that's not a particularly good way of doing it either, mm-hmm. Or efficient way of doing it. And so you start to go down, and of course, if you've got distribution, you've got distributor salespeople that can tell your brand story. But of course, they have books with 5,000 or 10,000 items in it, and getting them to talk about your product, especially if you're not that well known, is extraordinarily hard. But with social software today, and with the power of certain tools online, you have a way of communicating with thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people very efficiently, very inexpensively, virtually for free. And it was obvious to us a couple of years ago that it is and should be the route to market, because what it does is it subverts the whole power structure that exists between distributors, between and the wine press, not just in the U.S. but in all over the world. So it's, for us, it was just a gimme. It was very obvious that was an amazing tool to be utilized.
It's almost a David and Goliath story, to be honest with you.
Well, I think as a general rule, I think if you've got a good product and you've got a good story to tell and you push hard, there's unlimited opportunity. And the wine business is one of the most sort of fractured and strange consumer goods categories, because the world production of wine is about 3 billion cases. The top sort of 5 or 6 companies control 3% of the market. The rest of it, the other 97%, is broken up between thousands, and when I say thousands, I mean probably a couple 100,000 little producers all around the world. I mean, most countries, they're making some wine. Right? So the question then, of course, is how do you rise above the clutter, and how do you communicate your brand message? And do you have a brand message to begin with? Because most wines don't. Most wines are simply about place, and they say, we're great because we're from here, and we've got a winemaker named Bob who went to this school, or used to work here, or used to, or our family's been making it for 400 years, or whatever. And none of those messages are these days really relevant to people. If you're in some very particular places around the world and that are extraordinarily well known, then you have a chance of telling your place story. But if I go into say the UK market and say, "Hey, I'm from Temecula, aren't I wonderful?" They're going to look at you and say, "Where the heck is Temecula?"
Yeah.
So that doesn't work so well. So you've got to have a reason for being. You have to have a reason why your wine is different and special, and what what's unique about it. So
as a small business, I deal with small businesses all the way up to the United States Marine Corps, and everything kind of sort of in between. I think the big challenge is, just as you said, you're a small winemaker from nowhere, so to speak. How do you rise above the clutter? Now, is your background then typically marketing background? Because you certainly have, you've enamored me, and that's not easy to do, by the way. I'm a tough guy, and I'm listening to this going, wow. So what is your background?
I've been in the wine business for a long time, and I'm one of few people in the business who actually has a very good grasp of winemaking and how you sell it. And I've always believed that the successful wine brands in the world, if you look closely at what they've done, they always have had somebody in their organization, usually the founder, who understood those two things and integrated how you make it and how you sell it. And they made sure that they were selling what the market, or making what the market wanted. And that's sort of what we do. We over the years, I've developed personally a perspective of the market, which is a lot different than most people in our business. I mean, a lot of people look at me, competitors of ours, and they just think, "What the hell is this guy talking about?" I mean, it makes no sense to a lot of people.
Oh yeah, I get that all the time.
To us and the guys in our business, it couldn't make more sense. Wine, like a lot of things, has changed over the years, and what people want out of wine, we think, is fundamentally different than what most producers think. We think that people want wine to be part of their lives and to have fun with it, and to be, we call wine a social lubricant, because that's what it does. People sit down, they open a bottle, they start talking, and believe me, most guys are not talking about how the wine was made, what the bricks were that the grapes were picked at, or whether it was oak fermented or still fermented. People could give a shit about that. Yet the winemakers still, their conversation, read a back label, read copy, from an ad or from an article. You'll see they're talking about, how the grapes were picked, how the wine was made, and the skill of the winemaker. And that's just not relevant to people anymore, to consumers, I don't think. I think there's far more interesting and relevant conversation to have with people about wine.
This conversation you just had was the one that I had with my associate, Carrie Lewis, 2 weeks ago, when we were discussing the wine show that I want to do. What's the core of it, and what's going to be different about it. And I believe it's, in my case, I'm actually going to go out to the vineyards, and I'm going to interview and talk with each of the particular vineyards
That's great.
And then try to get an ambiance connected to the listener, so they might want to go.
You should come to South Africa.
Oh, yeah, that's on my list. I have to get a good sponsor or two before that happens. But if you're in California sometime, we can certainly get a nice interview. I'll take you up to the City Club and have a good interview up there. But the connection between the emotion backed up by the logic of the wine is what I'm trying to center the show about.
Sure.
Not only is it a good show, it's a good valued show. And that's one of the things that a good value wine, and that's one of the things that you've driven home quite nicely. It's got to be a good value,
sure,
as well as it has to be a good wine. And I love that.
Yeah, look, value is a funny thing with wine because one of the industry's dirty secrets is that every bottle, no matter where it's from, has the same 50 cents worth of wine in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a fact of life.
Wow.
It's got the same grapes, and what drives the cost of the wine has got very little to do with the actual cost of the liquid.
Oh, and yes, it's a consumer thing. It's like what's the price of gold?
It's like you can buy a diamond at Tiffany, or you can buy a diamond on 47th Street. Get the same diamond. It's a different experience in purchasing it, but once it's on the finger, it's
who knows? Who knows?
No one knows. And so wine. We believe that the market for really good quality, moderately priced wine is still underserved.
Mm-hmm.
Winemakers, wineries have convinced people that they need to spend a certain amount of money to get a good bottle of wine, $15, $20. And it's just not true. It's a sham on the part of some of these big wineries that they just want people to be spending more because there's obviously just more margin in it for them.
Sure.
What drives the cost of a wine has got very little to do with the actual production cost of it. It's got a lot more to do with other things, capital costs and what have you.
Perception, I would imagine.
Well, perception as well, but in terms of hard costs, capital costs, and what have you. And so, anyway, so we view part of our job to speak to people about wine and what we do in a simple and understandable and fun way, and then deliver wine that's really good for the money, good value, good quality, and we do make some more expensive wines, but that's not really what our focus is.
Talk to me about your viral marketing. Obviously, and I was fantasizing the other day, I need to go search more about viral marketing and try to. I'm an engineer by degree, so I thought, well, I should be able to write an equation for that. How do you know, or how did you know that viral marketing was working for you?
Well, I mean, what I might call viral marketing and what you might call viral marketing, I suspect are two different things. What we're doing online is very simple. It's basically having conversations with people. And there's lots of ways that you can, there are metrics that measure, how many conversations you're having. You can go online and you can go to sites like Technorati and that tracks blog conversations and put in Stormhook and see how many people have talked about you today or in the last week or year or month. So you can measure that and you can see that works and I'm not aware of any wine that has more mentions on say Technorati than we do. And although we're a little winery that no one's ever heard of, there's lots of people talking about us.
Clearly.
So you can measure that. You can measure it if you go on to Google and Google Stormhook. You'll see, I don't know, it depends on the mood that Google's in, but anywhere between 250,000, 400,000 references. Which, when you compare it, there's lots of big brands that aren't much better off than that. I mean, a while ago, I had.
Have you seen your sales go up suddenly?
Yeah, I mean, our sales, based upon how we're tracking this year, our sales have gone up, fivefold at least since we started blogging.
Excellent, and you can pretty much link that right back to all of this, the viral marketing, the bloggers, the geek dinners, and.
Yeah, I mean it's about we're building community, and there aren't a lot of wines that do that, and I mean it's you've got to have a cause and you've got to have a reason, if you're out there and you've got something interesting to say and people are like it, they'll talk about you, and you'll build community. If you go into Flickr, for example, you'll see 800-900 photos of people who've just uploaded things. Go into Google, Google Images, which I'm going to do right now because I haven't looked at it in a long time, and search into Stormhook. What do you come up with? You come up with 2,230 photos.
Wow, that's incredible.
And these are just pictures that people have posted online. They've attended dinners, or they've been involved in events that we've done. Although we ourselves haven't sponsored that many events, we've helped other people sponsor events. You know what I mean? It's just it's just that people feel inspired, and we have we have a community of people who are interested in what we represent as a business, as a brand. It's in our own little way, it's no different than some of the big brands out there. I mean,
oh, you're so far ahead of those guys. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm so impressed with what you guys are doing, and I'm usually, like I say, I'm a tough guy. I don't get impressed easily, and
thank you.
I literally am impressed. I want to talk about another brilliant move I thought you did was your open source label.
Right.
That was brilliant. And
thank you.
Can you talk about that?
Sure. I mean, again, going back to this notion that it's all about engagement. We realized we had a lot of people who were following what we were doing, and they were interested, and they were emailing us ideas, and not necessarily on packaging, but on just things generally. Why don't you try this? Why don't you do that? And so about a year and a half ago, we just basically did a post. Hugh McLeod, my buddy who's got a blog over at gapingvoid.com, actually did a post for us where he basically said, why shouldn't a little winery view itself as view its competitive set as companies like, Apple or Microsoft or Nike or those sorts of businesses. And that sort of question is a bit grandiose on one level. It's like, well, in reality, we're nothing compared to those guys. But on the other hand, it's about how you view yourself and how you view your business and how you view, what impact you can have on the marketplace. And so Hugh did a post basically saying, why can't we view ourselves as our competitive set as those guys? And, why not, why can't we sort of just say, hey, look, friends out there, the following, we'd like to redesign our package with that sort of ethos in mind, and, we'd like for you to help us do it. And we got, a couple hundred responses for everything from full-on sort of packaging briefs to just some suggestions about appearance. And what we did was we sort of took all that in, digested it. We didn't receive anything that we just said, hey, this is the answer.
Right.
Let's run with this. But what did happen was it sent us down a path that we would have otherwise never gone down, and we came up with something which we think is very innovative, which is unlike anything else in the marketplace, and it's doing very well. We call it Stormhook Siren. And it's sold in the UK and Europe. It's about a 7-8 pound wine, so $16-17, $15-16. And we just it was all sort of open source. And
I think that was brilliant. The ownership that people get in it too. I mean, you're going to build some brand loyalty in those groups, and they're going to talk about how they had a say-so in this thing. It isn't this great, and they'll buy it and send it to their mother.
Sure. More recently, if you go to the blog, we're doing a similar but different open source experiment where we had launched a cartoon label earlier this year that was done by my buddy Hugh McLeod over at Gaping Void. And Hugh, we're going to be doing a series of cartoon labels, and what we've done is there's a little widget on our blog which you can click on and sort of scroll through, 5 or 10 different labels and then vote for them. So the labels that appear on bottles will be the ones that people have voted the most for.
God, that's just brilliant. I've recently been on all the Temecula websites, looking for who's going to go on the show, so to speak, and it's all the same stuff. They're just old webs, and There's nothing exciting about them, unfortunately.
Well, I mean,
the
nice, the conversation that the industry has with its consumer as a rule is very inward-looking.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, they kind of, if you think about it this way, it would be like meeting a guy at a cocktail party, and he starts to tell you about his wife, and he tells you about his kids, and he tells you about his house, and he tells you about his vacation home, and he tells you about the car he bought, and then he tells you about the boat he's thinking about buying, and he tells you about where he got his suits made. Within about 5 minutes of listening to that, you'd be looking for the door. You'd be out the window if you had to be. And if you think about it, when you look at the conversation that wineries have with consumers, or with the trade even, that's the conversation. It's like, look at our beautiful winery, and look at our new facility, and look at our beautiful vineyards, and let me tell you about our winemaker, and let me tell you about our tasting room, and have you seen our new label? And it is completely sort of self-absorbed, and it's this very strange view of the world, it's an arrogant view of the world that they actually assume that people care enough that they're going to pay attention.
Precisely. On 101 Marketing, there's one of my podcasts is named Clients Only, Please. And when I get involved with marketing with companies, the CEO goes down through that whole list, and I smile at him and say, anything you think doesn't count.
Yeah,
the people that count are the ones that pay you money. And sure. I ask them the tough question: why do people pay you money?
Sure.
And they go down a laundry list of stuff, and none of it's right.
Sure.
And the answer is because you add value in their life, and when you stop adding value, they're going to stop buying your product.
Absolutely.
And you're preaching to the choir here. That's what got me all excited. I said, here's a guy that understands this stuff.
So our view is we put our wine out there and we give it to people. We've done a lot of sort of, hey, here's a bottle of wine and see what you could do with it kind of thing. All right. And we do it. People said to us, oh, well, you're giving away wine free, and anybody can do that and all that. And yeah, of course, anybody can do that. But here's the issue. The issue is we don't actually, go to a tasting and pour it in a glass and look at something and say, what do you think? All right? We basically say, look, here's a bottle. Go have some fun with it and let us know what you did.
Right.
All right? Because, our job isn't actually to monitor what people think of how it tastes. Our job is to give some people something that they can go have and enjoy, in their life. And where it fits into their life is their business, not ours.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
And they'll find a good place to fit it in. And so when we launched in the U.S., we'd done these geek dinners, which were, well, they became called geek dinners, but 100 dinners in our first 100 nights of our launch. And what we said to people were, look, here's the wine. Sign up. We had a wiki. People went and signed up, and we gave them some limited edition lithographs and some wine and what have you. And we said, look, send us some photos and let us know how it went. And people did these amazing events. They're really, really fun and cool. And if you go to the blog, you can sort of last May, June, July, August, you can see lots of stuff up on the blog from the events. And we had tech people, we had foodies, we had some wine guys, we had a lot of marketing and PR people, and everybody just had a great time.
Yeah.
It was just
I feel hurt. I didn't get a chance to get on the story early enough.
Well, we're thinking about doing another set of these at some point soon, so we'll definitely let you know.
You'll please let me know. Yes, I'd love to organize that. And I'm sitting here in Orange County where there's people that drink wine all the time.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I thought was pretty brilliant about your open source label was when you go down as a consumer and you look at all those wines, which I've just started to try to understand wines. I bought a lot of books and I'm reading stuff, and so I'm literally a newbie. And I'm looking at that, I'm going, what jumps out at me? And it's different label, a different type of label than the standard stuff, And I think, and Carrie and I were both down at the store looking at wine labels, and you look at that, and, you pick up a bottle of wine, because I wouldn't know a good one from a bad one, so to speak, right? But you got my attention because of the label. That's one of the things I just think is brilliant about that open source label as well.
Sure. I say to these big grocers in Europe, I walk in your store and you've got 1,000 different wines on the shelf, literally. and all I know is I want to spend £5 and I want a white wine. Right? Mm-hmm. From looking at the shelf, how do I tell what's better? What the good wines are? How do I tell what's better than the next? It is a completely random experience for the overwhelming majority of the consumers out there, and the wine trade, does nothing to help people out. All they do is stick a number on that they might get from the Wine Spectator. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they treat people. Generally the wine consumer is treated deplorably. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, by the trade. I just absolutely love the fact you're doing something different to send a flag out there. Now,
Thank you.
I even thought about you're familiar with the rotating signs you see in sports venues?
Sure.
I invented them, and in America here, we put out a whole bunch of them, and they went into McDonald's, and being an inventor of something like that, and then trying to move it around as an advertising tool, I started to get to know what people look at and what they don't look at, and sure. I would even when are we going to put little rotating signs or blinking lights on wine?
Well, rotating signs, that's a ways off. Blinking lights, I could see relatively soon.
Yeah. There's got to be something there. Chips are getting down to a point where you can push a button on a wine and have the winemaker tell you about the wine. Or,
absolutely.
That's got to be around the corner. Are you guys looking in any techie stuff like that at all?
Well, because we've got a big following in the tech community, we've had a lot of people come to us with ideas. Mm-hmm. We haven't done anything yet, but we've got a list of ideas.
Okay, I'm going to start adding to that list, and as a geek who is a successful geek.
Please do.
That'll be good. The other question, I also want to do another commend to you, jumping on the Mentos and Coke thing.
Yeah.
That was brilliant, by the way. I'm telling you didn't miss a step on that.
We had fun with that because our buddy Lloyd, who did that for us, it's funny. The Mento thing was happening, and it just sort of gone online, and I thought, again, one of the things about wine and this notion of making it accessible and fun is doing stuff like that, playing with it, mm-hmm. Having this sense of play with wine, which the wine trade is hates because they're in this pretentious mode. They think by being pretentious they'll sell more wine, and they don't understand that it doesn't work that way. So we thought, okay, what can we do? So let's do a spoof on the Mento thing, and that thing is not the biggest. It hasn't got the hugest number of views online, but I think it's up to 3,000 or something. I looked a couple of weeks ago.
3,000 more potential customers. That's
and why? Because it's funny. It's a bit long, and
it kept me going though. So I watched the whole thing while I was waiting for you to call back, and I watched the whole thing, and the thing I love the most is how you turn it around to extremely positive at the end, saying the reason why it works so well is because the wine is fresh. I love that. I thought, man.
Yeah, I got a little internal criticism for that because that was my sort of hamming things up.
No, tell them different, because I think that was awesome.
Thank you.
And you're catching those people who are going to want to watch this Mentos phenomena. And you're right in the middle of it, and that's just brilliant. I just got to commend you for that. Last but not least, have you thought about doing anything in Second Life?
Yeah, we did. It's funny. A buddy of mine, a fellow by the name of Robert Scoble, who was with Microsoft for years and sort of their kind of lead blogger, and then last year when left Microsoft to go work for a company called PodTech. I was in Seattle a little over a year ago, and he said to me, "Hey, what you should do is, no one's ever going to go to South Africa to visit the winery, but people will go to Second Life and visit it, and why don't you build a winery on there?" And I thought, wow, that would be cool. And so what happened was, I signed up for Second Life. A couple of my friends signed up for Second Life, and we were intending on building a little Stormhook winery on Second Life. And to be honest with you, it was too hard. Mm-hmm. We just struggled with it. And this might sound really lame to people maybe younger than me.
Well, I'm much older than you, I think.
I'm not that young anymore. But we spent a few hours on there, and it just was, it just wasn't easy. And not that things, things that are worthwhile aren't necessarily easy. But I just thought, this is going to be too hard to do, and so we just never did it. Although we played with the idea of having maybe a global wine tasting and doing some other stuff, but I don't know about Second Life. Obviously, American Apparel and a lot of companies now have jumped on the bandwagon.
Nike's on there.
Nike, but I don't know. I'm still not that convinced.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I spent the last 2 weeks literally in Second Life because someone said, and I have a golfing product that is selling on the web, and they said, "Oh, you ought to sell it in Second Life." I said, "What the heck is Second Life?" So I spent literally 2 weeks in Second Life trying to understand as a marketing guy, how do you make money here? Is there an opportunity? And what is this real community? And I think that they've got Linden Labs has got a powerful piece of software that's going to metamorphosize all over the place. And I think the early adapters might have some opportunity there. I did try to find your Storm Hoek Winery on Second Life and couldn't. I did find another winery, and it turns out that people literally go to these virtual wineries for their weddings in Second Life. I mean, it's pretty bizarre when you stop and think about it. But
this fellow, I can't remember his name, Josh. I think he's got a blog called Pinot Blogger. I believe he either built or was going to build some winery in Second Life. I don't know. For the moment, we work on one of our sort of theories is about sort of engaging people virtually and then making it real, face to face.
Agreed.
And Second Life sort of goes the other way, if you know what I mean.
I understand that too, but as a marketing guy, I'd tell you to go look at it again because at any one time there's 30,000 people online.
Yeah.
And you think, boy, if you could get into one of their, for example, they have a whole Gorean world. Gorea is based off these books of a gentleman wrote a very primitive world, and those guys are so clannish, And you make a Gorean wine version, and you've got them all talking about it, literally. Boom, done. And so if you think about cults, or and I like to think about it as tribal marketing myself. There's a tribe you're going to go after. They have a certain set of values, and if you can put your product into those values, it goes right in. They don't even know it. It's all of a sudden, boom, done. And that might be kind of fun for you to think about. And if you need some advice, give me a shout.
Right.
But Second Life is certainly a rockin' and happening place that consumers they're spending real money.
Yep.
But
I think that's probably good advice. Something we should probably revisit.
Well, it follows down this advance that you've got going on. It's another viral marketing advance into that world, and I can just fantasize about a little area, a Storm Hoek Winery, where you actually in Second Life. I didn't realize this. You can actually play videos, and so you stand in front of this thing and you select what video you want. And all your videos can be literally right there. You could have a tour of the winery. You could have this. You can have oh my gosh, it's just a matter of what do you want to do. And you can have events and discos and all serving this wine and educating people about wine. There, you would be one of the first on there to do that. It's just something to go look at,
Okay. I will.
Something interesting. The last thing I want to just close with, tell me again about the geek dinners. How did you organize 100 geek dinners, and did that cost you a lot of money?
Simply, it was really very simple. We teamed up with Wines of South Africa, which is a South African-based charity and trade organization. And basically, all we did was do a post online saying to people, look, for our launch, we would like to have 100 dinners in our first 100 nights selling wine in the U.S. So if you're interested in sponsoring a dinner, what we'll do is with Wines of South Africa, send you some wine for your dinner. We'll also send you some limited edition prints from the lithographs that Hugh created. And all we ask for you to do is to create a dinner. Let us know how many people and where you're going to have it, and date, obviously. And give us a topic for the dinner, which hopefully does not involve wine, but if it does, it does. And then we'll send you some wine and have a nice time. And that's what we did.
Wow.
And we had, the 100 days, we had about 96 dinners, 97 dinners. They were from as small as, say, 10 people at someone's house to as large as 250 people.
Mm-hmm.
Really, from New Hampshire to San Diego, and from Seattle to Miami. It was really all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it was really just an indication of the power of the net, really.
Mm-hmm.
That you could reach out. There were people in Arkansas, Ohio, Illinois. I mean, this is, just all over the place. And places that you would never have, imagined that, you in a normal sort of marketing sense, you would never get to.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Just brilliant.
Yeah, it was great. Amazing experience.
Thank you, Jason, for coming on the show, and wish you the best of luck. And
thank you, Peter.
Hopefully, as I follow your track across the internet here and doing things differently, we might actually get another interview if you would grant me one. And
that'd be nice. I think we'll be doing some of this video sort of in-store stuff. We're going to start doing in the States soonish, and it might be fun to do something around that. So,
well, absolutely. And if you're in our area, I have an entire video company, and be glad to donate the time and the effort to doing that for you.
Thank you. That's fantastic.
All right, sir. Well, thank you so much for coming on the air, and I'll talk with you along the way.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.